All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Purim boot camp. This is our exploration of the holiday of the Chag of Purim. Hey, Sandrine, welcome. Good to see you. Okay, we have so much to get to tonight, but first, why is it called Purim?
Because we drew lots to figure out.
Oh, don't give me the real reason.
Oh.
It's because there is a custom, as we'll see tonight, to say L'chaim on Purim. And what do you say to the bartender?
Come on.
Pour him another. Pour him. Oh, I said I would start with a joke. Didn't say it would be a good joke. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so here's the overview. What we're going to do tonight is explore the story of Purim as told in the book of Esther. We're going to do a quick. Don't worry, I won't give you the whole Megillah. I will, but in a short version. So we'll go through the story of Purim. Okay, number one. Number two, we'll go through the mitzvot, the obligations, the observances of Purim. There's 4, which we know, but we'll go over. Then we're going to get to the Talmud. We're going to study a piece of Talmud which details a crazy story. There are a lot of wild stories in the Talmud. I would put this toe to toe if we were doing a Talmudic bracket. It's March Madness. I'm just saying, right? Like 1 through 64, right? Pitting Talmudic stories. I don't know that this would not come in number 1. There's a lot of double negatives there. I apologize. I don't not apologize. No, but basically there's a lot of wildness in the story that we'll tell. Then we're going to get into a bunch of questions on the story, classic commentaries and their answers to explain that story. You guys with me so far? Because there's a test that counts for a permanent record afterwards. And after that, we're going to take it to the next level. And I'll share with you a talk, a sikha, an insight that the Rebbe shared, the Lubavitch Rebbe shared in 1970, 6 months after Woodstock, all about Purim and about the Talmudic piece. You guys ready? Post Woodstock.
You weren't even alive then.
You know what they say? They say if you remember Woodstock, you weren't there. And I don't remember Woodstock. I'm just saying I may have been there. All right, fine. Let's jump in. Did I give you all this? I feel like that wasn't Southern enough. Did I give you all this? All right, here we go. Guys, please take and pass. Take and pass. Please take and pass. There's more copies. Just put them down. People join. We'll have them at the ready.
You can't lick your fingers anymore after COVID.
I know, right? Takes away all the fun. Okay,
Maybe
1
we'll
second.
get a ball
Let
and
me
do it.
think. Right. We definitely do not want that. Oh, hello. Welcome. No worries. You are good. Okay, what we're gonna do
Just remember the joke.
is I'm gonna open this up and we're gonna get started. Okay, I passed around a piece of paper called the Purim Story Overview. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, you guys have that, right? Let's see. Yeah, just pull over. Oh, you have it here. Perfect. I'm gonna pull this up on the Zoom. You know what? If you don't mind, pass down a copy.
Here.
1 and
Here's
1.
the
All right,
copy.
I'm pulling everything up on the screen as well.
that.
There you go, Lisa. Pass it down.
And here's
Toda rabba.
One from-
Thank you very much. Okay. Share. Can you guys see that online? Can you guys see that my screen where it says thumbs up if you can? Yeah. All right.
Yep,
Amazing.
Yep, it's here.
Okay. Awesome. Purim story overview. You guys ready? I'm going to read this. We'll go quickly through the story, right? So I know the fast Megillah reading because I have friends that do Megillah fast, and it's like, can you break 20 minutes, whatever. This is going to be like the 2-minute Megillah.
Megillah cutting.
Bullet point. This is like, this is not the Gatsa Megillah. This is like, not even the Halba Megillah. This is like the Cliff Notes Megillah.
Yeah.
All right, Purim story overview. Number 1, we begin with a party. All good stories begin with a party. Maybe it's a murder mystery. I'm kidding. But actually it was. Oh my gosh, turns out. Okay, its story begins with the King Achashverosh, who is the Persian king, throws a 180-day feast to celebrate his reign and the 70-year exile of the Jewish people. So the Megillah begins, the book of Esther begins. Oh, I should mention, by the way, the book of Esther is where this story is recorded. It is one of the 24 holy books of Jewish scripture. It is the last of the 24 books officially canonized as books of scripture. It was the last one that was approved with the big old stamp of approval from the rabbis, as this is not just a random book of history. This is a book of Torah, Tanakh literature. All right, yeah.
Didn't they celebrate this festival? I heard because he celebrated the fact that he didn't think that the Israelis would reestablish their temple because of
Yes.
the time factor that had gone by.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Let me weave that in right now. Excellent. So he throws a feast. It's a 180-day feast. You think that party in college, you think that was a big party because it went for 3 days over a weekend? Try a 180-day feast. That's like 6 months of partying.
Yes, I say, is a heavy.
That's a lot. That's a lot of partying, my friends. That is a lot of l'chaims. Anyway, so he throws a 180-day feast to celebrate two things: his reign, okay, and the 70-year exile of the Jewish people. Meaning, as Adrian just pointed out, there was a Jewish prophecy that said that after 70 years. So the story of Purim takes place about many years ago, about 2,500 years ago. It's right in between the first and second temples. The first temple built by King Solomon stood for 410 years. Then it was destroyed by the Babylonians. 70 years elapsed. Okay, there was a prophecy that said that when 70 in 70 years, the second temple, a second temple, will be built or rebuilt. The temple will be rebuilt in 70 years. King Achashverosh ran the numbers. He said it's the 70th year. There's no temple. He was celebrating the fact that there would be no Jewish future. And yet, ironically and cynically, who did he invite to the party amongst everyone else? Invited the Jewish people. And what did they say? What did they do when they got the invite? You were invited to the royal palace for a feast, kosher food included. What did they say?
Sure.
They said yes to the dress. They said yes to the invitation. They said yes to the invitation, and they went. So the Jews, second bullet point, Jews attend feast against Mordecai's orders. Mordecai said it's not a good idea. He was the leader. He said this is not good. The feast is celebrating the demise of the Jewish people. You don't want to be at this feast. He's using bowls and vessels and spoons from the temple, degrading them for his own party. And they went. At that party, Queen Vashti is killed for failing to appear before the men at the feast. The Megillah says, the book of Esther says, that the king, in his inebriated state at some point, asked Queen Vashti to show up, and he says, wearing the royal crown. According to the commentaries, what he really meant and what he really said is, I want you to come wearing only the royal crown.
Ooh.
And she said, absolutely not. So he kills her in his drunken stupor. Achashverosh then, so after that, he needs a new queen, because, once the queen is gone, you need a new queen if you're the king. So he throws a royal beauty pageant, and Esther is chosen as the new queen. It was called, it was a reality show. Simon, what's his name? Cowell. Simon Cowell presided as a celebrity judge, and they chose Esther. By the way, Esther did not want to show up to the pageant. What's a Jewish girl wanting to be the wife of this crazy king who just killed his previous wife? Who wants that position?
He killed Vashti?
He had her killed because she didn't show up, undressed.
crown.
Exactly, naked with a crown. So he kills her. It's the end of chapter 1. He kills her, and that's the story. Okay, next part of the story is as follows. Mordecai, but she's chosen against her will. She's chosen. Mordecai, Esther's cousin, makes her swear that she will not reveal that she is a Jew. He says, don't tell anybody that you're a Jew. Why did he tell her not to say that she's a Jew? Several reasons are given, amongst them that he thought that with this kind of with the secrecy, maybe she wouldn't be so desired by the king because he can't figure her out. And other reasons, but he says, don't tell anybody that you're Jewish, keep it on the down low. Let's continue. The story then progresses in the book of Esther that Mordecai discovers there were two guards, or sorry, two, royal attendants, Bigsan and Seresh. They plotted to kill the king, and Mordecai discovers the plot and saves the king's life. All right, let's continue. The next piece of the story is Haman boo, he's the bad guy, is appointed prime minister, and everyone is told to bow to him. Mordecai refuses to bow to Haman. Haman is incensed because the Jews refusing to bow down to him. Haman decides that he wants to destroy all the Jews and cast lots. Lots in the Persian word for lots is, well, a lot, single lot, like a lottery, is pur, lots, plural, Purim, to determine the day. Hence the name Purim for the holiday. It's named after the lots. So he determines the day in which, God forbid, to destroy, to kill, to murder, assassinate, exterminate the Jewish people. God forbid. Okay, next piece of the story. The lots that he throws fall out on the 13th day of the following Adar. I believe, if my memory serves me correct, I believe he threw the lots, i.e. he did this lottery in the month of Nisan. And it fell out almost 12 months later, almost a full year later, in the month of Adar. Next, Haman approaches Achashverosh. That's the king again, offering payment for permission to kill the Jews. He says, I got a plan, I got a date. Please give me your permission to kill the Jews. He says, I'll give you a lot of money. Achashverosh agrees, do whatever you want to the Jews, and he refuses payment. He says, keep the money. Haman says, I'll give you a lot of money to permission to kill the Jews. Achashverosh says, keep the change. That's good. I don't want it. So who's the real bad guy? Yeah, they're both villains in the story. Haman sends out a royal decree that all Jews will be killed on the 13th of Adar. He actually sends out two letters. The first letter says, very cryptic, it says, there is a nation, a peoples amongst us that will be killed on the 13th day of Adar. That's the first message. Jews will be killed. Oh, good to see you, Mark. On the that people will be killed on the 13th of Adar. Jump on in. Here, Mark, pull over a chair wherever you're comfortable.
Okay.
Even flank me if you like. And then the second letter, like a only open to later letter, it's always cool, said that, oh, the people that are going to be, God forbid, assassinated will be the Jewish people. So there are two letters that went out. Next, Mordecai mourns because he hears the news and asks Esther, we're doing an overview of the story, asks Esther to go to the king and intervene on, not of, it should be on her people's behalf. Mordecai says to his cousin, Esther, you are the queen. Now is your chance. This is your time. Go to the king and intervene on behalf of your people. Esther responds the following way. She fears for her life and is initially hesitant. She says, me? Go to the king? He's going to kill me if I try to petition. Esther agrees to go to the king if Mordecai will gather the Jews and fast for 3 days with her. So Mordecai says, no, it's your time. It's your calling. You got to do this. You got to go. She says, fine, I'll go, but everyone's got to pray and fast on my behalf so that my mission to go into the king and petition on behalf of the people will be successful. And so what happens is they have a 3-day fast. We commemorate this, by the way, every year with something called the fast of Esther. It's usually the day before Purim. But since Purim this year is on a Sunday, and the day before Purim is, of course, Shabbat. We don't fast on Shabbat unless it's Yom Kippur, 1 day a year. But otherwise, we don't fast on Shabbat. Thus, we bump up the fast. Right? It should be
start on Friday.
But we don't want to fast on Friday either. Why? Because Friday, you go into Shabbat fasting. It's also not good.
What about Thursday?
Thursday, it's settled Thursday. The fast is tomorrow morning.
For real?
Fast is legit tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Correct. It's bumped all the way up from Saturday to Thursday. Yeah, fast is tomorrow.
It's just one day.
Yes, well, it's a half a day. It starts in the morning, like I believe it's 6:21. The fast begins a.m. and it ends like 8:16 or 17.
Why is it Thursday, not Friday?
Because we don't want to fast going into Shabbat.
That's just intermittent fasting.
No. So here's the thing. Totally right.
Yeah.
Skip lunch.
Everybody can do this.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. So listen, it's the reason is if the fast day, like this year, Asar B'Tevet, 10th of Teves, which is a fast day, fell out on Friday, and you do fast on Friday. So if a fast day falls out on Friday, you would fast on Friday. But here the fast fell out on Shabbat. So we're pushing it anyway. So once we push it, we're gonna push it to a better day than Friday. Because Friday, who wants to go into Shabbat? On an empty stomach.
Is there an app for this?
It's called
It's very
your
confusing.
local Jewish calendar,
It's very
which, by the way, is also
We're gonna need an app.
Yeah, we're gonna need an app. Yes, there actually is. It's called the Luach app, which I have. Lulav is Hebrew for calendar.
Yeah.
All right, back inside.
It's a lot to keep up with.
It's Thursday, fast, intermittent fasting. Okay, now next is, oh, so that's her fast and the ancient fast. Next, Esther approaches the king and requests that the king and Haman come for a feast. She says, I want to invite you. She says to her husband, I want to invite you to a feast. And also Haman. Third wheel, okay. A little weird, but okay. Huh? She's total trap.
That's what I was thinking. When they
Total
invited
trap.
the Jews to the party, I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh, that's a trap.
So the moral of the story is, don't go to a feast. It's always a trap. Oh, wait, I brought Hamatashin. You've all fallen into my hands. Kidding. All right. So, okay, good. Back inside. At the feast, they say, Esther, why did you call it a feast? She says to them, come to another feast. Oh, red flags that for Haman. Red. They're like, it's like the airport, red flags everywhere. It's just like they're throwing around the red flags. Yo, come to another feast. Second feast. Never go into a second.
Ari,
Yes,
can I add something?
sure.
No.
Okay, it's your mama speaking.
Yeah.
I never connected.
Okay, can do you want to say the plot really thickens because this is a wine feast because it's the 4 cups of wine at the first Seder and the 4 cups of wine at the second Seder?
Right. So this story apparently, thank you for adding it. The story apparently happens on Passover.
Okay.
The feast for Passover. And she invited them to a Seder. They had 4 cups of
I didn't
wine.
even know it.
They had no idea. So she'll come back a second night. We'll do a second Seder. Done. That's according to the mention. Yeah. That's what my mother said. She'll add a little insight. All right. So back inside. So she invites them to a second feast. Next, Haman, all happy. Look at this guy. He's being invited to the feast with the king and the queen.
Mhm.
He's like, I'm in royal company. This is great. So he is super stoked. He leaves the palace and then he sees Mordechai. Mordechai never bows down to him and he gets angry. He's like this big shot. He's riding high, but he sees Mordechai and now his mood is once again soured. Haman asks his family what to do. What do I do with this guy? Mordechai the Jew. And they come up with a plan to hang Mordechai on the gallows. He builds a gallows. That night, Haman heads to the palace to request permission from the king to hang Mordechai. Meanwhile, the king can't sleep. The king can't sleep. This is before
very
podcast.
unusual because
Right.
he drank wine.
Right.
Oh.
So this is before podcasts,
Yeah.
before late night TV,
Yeah.
and before books. Actually, no, they read him a book. That's all they had. So he says to one of his people, read me the book of Chronicles, like the book of recent history, book about me, he says, book about Ahasuerus and his reign. So, so hold on. Oh, meanwhile, the king has read the story of Mordechai saving his life and decides to repay him. So this fellow opens up the book he's like, open up to a random page, and he reads the random page of the last little history of the Persian Empire, and he reads the story of this Jew Mordechai who saves his life. The king is like, oh, what did we ever do to repay him? Nothing. Turns out nothing. Just then, Haman arrives, and Haman wants to ask to assassinate Mordechai, to kill Mordechai. Meanwhile, the king has decided to repay him. Plot twist. So when Haman arrives, before he can even ask, the king asks him what Haman suggests be done for one whom the king wishes to honor. Now, Haman thinks he means him. The king says, oh, what should we do for someone that I want to honor? He's like, well, put him on the royal horse, dress him in the royal garments, give him the crown, put on the ring, put on the jewelry, because he thinks like he's asking about him. All right, well, so Haman replies lavishly, thinking the king is referring to him. The king surprises Haman and tells him, oh, perfect, I love your idea. Do exactly this for Mordechai. Haman is humiliated and then must rush. Oh, so what happens is Haman rushes out to the feast. Haman has to run immediately to gather Mordechai and dress him and put him on the horse, and he leads him through the streets. And he says, thus shall be done, or this is what is done to the person whom the king wishes to honor. And he parades him through the streets. Haman, Mr. Big Shot, is now leading a horse with Mordechai on top. And at this point, he realizes tides have turned, baby, upside down. All right, so he's humiliated. It also says a story that he was walking down the street with the horse and whatever, and his daughter was up on the top floor. It was passing his house or apartment, and his daughter sees in this situation, this parade, and she's sure that it's Mordechai leading her father. And so she pours a bucket of, we'll just call it garbage, down from that onto the head of the person leading the horse. Turns out it's her own dad. It's
Oh
Papa
my
Haman. Yeah, it's terrible for him.
We learned it
but
was
yeah.
to empty the chamber pot.
Yeah, exactly.
chamber pot.
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
chamber
no.
pot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had, well, okay. Yes. Anyway, the point of this is that so he's humiliated, he has to clean up, and then he has to rush, clearly he has to rush to the queen's second feast. Esther discloses that she is a Jew at this feast, and she says there's someone that wants to kill her and her people. The king says, who? Oh, sorry, before she says that she's Jewish, that she says, I gathered this to plead on behalf of my people, etc. Somebody here, there's somebody that wants to kill me and my people. And the king says, who? What? And she says, that man, Haman. That was like the big dramatic moment. The king orders, we're now in the second half. I don't know where we are. No, we're already in the second half. The king orders, the one that smells like a chamber. The king orders that Haman be hanged on the very gallows that he prepared for Mordechai. A new decree is sent out giving the Jews permission to fight back. The Jews overcome their enemies on the 13th day of Adar and celebrate their salvation on the 14th day of Adar, which is the day that we call Purim. Jews in Shushan fight for an additional day, celebrate their salvation on the 15th day of Adar because they fought for the 13th and the 14th. Took a little longer in Shushan, and then they rested on the 15th. The holiday of Purim was thus established for the Jewish people, and the book of Esther was penned. That took more than 2 minutes. Full disclosure, that took a while. That may have taken the equivalent amount. But here's the point. The point is that this is the story of Purim and the overview of the story of the book of Esther. And because of this, as mentioned, there's a holiday that we celebrate. What is the holiday? The holiday of Purim. And on Purim, as I kind of mentioned, we would do in the opening kind of overview. On Purim, there are 4 primary mitzvot. There are 4 things that we are meant to do on the holiday of Purim. So this is going to happen Saturday night and Sunday. Number 1, hear the book of Esther being read twice. Once at night, Saturday night, and once during the day on Sunday. So Saturday night, sometime in the night, and then Sunday, pretty much anytime during the day. There are Megillah readings that can be had. By the way, in Atlanta, across the city, there are literally dozens and dozens of Megillah readings. Check your local listings. Check the Purim guide, like the TV guide. Remember that? Do they still print that? Do they still print the TV guide?
I don't know.
I should know. I work for Nielsen, but we don't. I don't think they do.
They don't, right? Yeah. Why would they print this?
CNN.
Online. Yeah. Might as well.
Read it
All right.
personally.
So here is the thing. So that's mitzvah number 1. By the way, they're all mitzvot. Megillah is number 1. Number 2 is mishloach manot, giving gifts of food to a friend. Right? Make sure to give 2 types of food to at least one friend. The next one is matanot levyonim, gifts of charity, of tzedakah, to the poor, specifically to an individual who needs money. And this is the mitzvah is to give to 2 people. To give to 2 people some amount of money to help them. That's the 3rd mitzvah. 4th mitzvah is also a mitzvah. So in Megillah, mishloach manot, matanot levyonim. And the 4th mitzvah is the mishteh, the party, the feast. We're meant to have a feast, a holiday feast, sometime on Purim Day, sometime on Sunday.
So Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Is there some Kabbalah?
You have to come back next week for the gematria class. Come back for the numerology discussion.
So
Okay.
we have to give food to somebody. We have to give to a person that in need. And then feast.
Feast.
And then
And
what's
the
the other
Megillah.
one?
Listen to the Megillah.
Oh, listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sandrine's asking, do you have to give Mishloach Manos on Purim Day? Yes, ideally.
On the day.
Ideally on the day. Yeah, because the mitzvah for the day. A lot of people give beforehand. right? A lot of people send or give or whatever.
So
But
if you send
you
one
can
more
even
person-
give anybody. You
Can
can
you-
take an apple and a hamatash from Kroger or whatever and say, here, and you do the mitzvah. Yeah.
Well,
By the way, when I was a kid, it wasn't
can you
nowadays. It's
put
very
food and
large.
stuff together for like a homeless person and take it to them and cover a lot of
Yeah, absolutely.
things? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do
But specifically, the mitzvah of giving to the poor is giving actually money
money. Okay.
to someone in need.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, to two people in need.
2 people.
So it's 2 food items to at least one person and tzedakah to at least 2 people. Okay. So those are the 4 mitzvahs.
But
Can I add some interesting
Hold on one second.
point?
Yeah.
typically, the shul can be the recipient to receive the money and then they
Distribute it. Correct. Exactly. Right. So synagogue, etc., and or
Okay.
will take those funds and distribute it on Purim Day to those in need, and thereby you can fulfill the mitzvah, or you can give directly to somebody. Okay. So let's jump in. We have a lot to get to. All of this was kind of by virtue in the context of the overview. What I want to talk about today is a fascinating Talmudic tale. And again, I teased this at the beginning. The Talmud discusses, the Talmud relates an incredible story, and it all revolves around, funny enough, alcohol. Because the Talmud says that not only is there a mitzvah to feast on Purim, there's a mitzvah to drink on Purim. And this is going to be the topic of a big discussion. So but before we get into it, let's get into it. Okay, let's pull this up. You guys, everyone has the booklets, the packets. Do you have the packet? Mark,
We didn't have
I do
packet.
that.
We have
grab the packet. I'm going to pull the,
packet.
exactly.
This is the how-to.
This is that.
While you're doing that, could I just add one quick thing?
Yeah.
The Jews were very ingenious. That you're supposed to give one gift of 2 kinds of ready-to-eat food. So they decided that what's a what ready-to-eat food has 2 things already combined in it: fruit and cake. Hamantash.
Nice. Although you may still need to give 2 separate food items because it
Yes.
should be something that I think is supposed to have 2 blessings. So this would be
Right.
a bit of a combo. Okay,
Right.
so let's jump into text number 1 from the Talmud Tractate Megillah 7b. So here we go. Let's begin. We'll take it slow. Rava said, you guys with me? I think it should be up online and you guys have it in front of you. So Rava said, it is the duty of a man. In other words, it's a mitzvah to imbibe himself with wine on Purim until he cannot discern between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. Pretty wild. You're supposed to drink. Supposed to drink on Purim to the point that you don't know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. You're not sure who the hero is and who the villain is. That's how as I say in Yiddish, verschnuckert you're supposed to be.
Wow.
That's like to the point, you're not sure who's who. Yeah, exactly. Now, listen to what the Talmud says next. You think that's crazy? It's going to get crazier. Rabbi and Reb Zera, Rabbi and Rabbi Zera, 2 rabbis, joined together in a Purim feast. They were hanging out together. They imbibed. They drank. They said, Aloha Chaim. And Rabbi arose and cut Rabbi Zera's throat. By the way, the Hebrew word or the Aramaic word is v'shachate. Shechted him.
Wow.
Like an animal when you slaughter an animal. Shechted him. Rabba shechts, slaughters Rabbi Zera.
Was he preparing for a barbecue?
Hold on, let's continue. On the next day, he prayed on his behalf and revived him. Whew, dodged a bullet there.
Yes.
Hold on. So you follow me in the story. 2 rabbis, they're drinking a little too much. One guy shechts the other guy. The next day, assumption being that he's sobered up. He's like, oh, where's my buddy? Oops.
Oh, no. Whoa.
Yeah, this turned into a true crime
Like you
murder,
said.
Talmudic murder mystery pretty quickly. He davens and he brings him back to life. The next year,
Oh.
Rabbah says to Reb Zera, will your honor come and we will have the Purim feast together? He invited him again the next year. Can you imagine? He said, let's do it again. He replied, Reb Zera replied, a miracle doesn't happen every time.
Exactly.
Not a chance, my friend.
I have another invitation.
I
I have another invitation.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got another party to get to.
Yeah,
This
right.
one, no knives.
Yeah.
No knives
Hide your
allowed.
knives.
Hide your knives.
Yeah, this rabbi.
Hide
your
your
knives when
knives.
This rabbi comes over.
This is an unbelievable story.
Mhm.
Apparently there were different customs at the time.
Yeah, one of them is to check your guests.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
All right. Listen. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. This is the story that's told. A lot of questions come up. There's a whole host of questions, and really the story is I don't know. It's really hard to ignore that story, but I want to, for a moment, focus on the first paragraph, which was the tame. In retrospect, that was the tame paragraph, the one that said you're supposed to drink till you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. That was like, oh, we forgot about that one because of that crazy story of one rabbi, slaughtering the other rabbi, bringing him back to life, inviting him the next year. The guy saying, sorry, can't make it this time. All right, but so I want to focus on the first paragraph for a second. Ask 3 questions. Okay. Question number 1, what's this business of drinking, right? Why is it a mitzvah to get inebriated, intoxicated, to drink, to imbibe on Purim? Since when? Since why? Since who? Since what? Why are we drinking? Yes, we said there's a mitzvah to have a festive meal, but since when does that mean drinking and drinking to the point of inebriation, right? Okay, so we mentioned Passover. Right? Passover, we're supposed to have 4 cups of wine, but it doesn't say that you're supposed to have, right? It doesn't say that you're supposed to drink 4 cups of wine specifically to get inebriated. It doesn't say that. And yet the Talmud here is saying that on Purim specifically, there's this thing about drinking to the point of intoxication. And that seems to be on many levels a little bizarre and or troubling. That's question number 1. Question number 2, what is this business of drinking to the point where you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai? Why specifically? If the Talmud is just trying to give us a bar of intoxication, why does it say, well, until you don't know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai? Why not till you don't know the difference between a Megillah and a cactus? I don't know, like what? Sorry for that random shout out, but like why use this example of this bar of intoxication? You know the difference between the 2 main characters. Why not any other bar of intoxication until you can't walk a straight line and do a sobriety test? Until you, until you have lost count of how many hamantashen you've etten throughout the course of the day. Huh?
What's the answer?
Well, hold on. We're not the answer yet. Hold on. We're gonna drag this out for a little bit, aren't we? All right. Cliffhanger. So we have 2 questions. Question number 1, what's the business of drinking? Question number 2, what's this business of not knowing the difference specifically between Haman and Mordechai? Question number 3 is similar, but it's the last question, and that is, it seems like, from all appearances, it seems like the whole point of the story of Purim, the whole point of the holiday of Purim is that Haman was victorious. So, wow. I must have drank. Kidding. Was that Mordechai was victorious? I misspoke. Whoops. Right? That seems to be the whole point of the Megillah. The whole point of Purim is that Mordechai is vindicated, the Jews are vindicated, and Haman and his family, his 10 sons also were killed. Haman is met with a downfall. That seems to be the whole point, is to know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. And we're saying you're supposed to drink to the point that you don't know that? Then what are we celebrating? If you don't know that, then what are you celebrating? So these are the 3 questions. We didn't even get to the question about one guy killing the other guy. That one I'll ask a 4th question. What happened there? But that's the easy question. But on the first paragraph, 3 questions just to recap. Number 1, why they're drinking. Number 2, why to the point that you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai? Why specifically them? Number 3, why blur the lines? Isn't the whole point of Purim to know the distinction? Mordechai is the good guy, Haman was the bad guy. Now we don't want to know the difference. It seems counterintuitive. Okay, these are the 3 questions. So I want to share with you 3 answers. 3 answers, classic answers. By the way, we're not going to be satisfied with these answers, but let's give the classic answers, just so you know that these questions have been discussed throughout the generations, throughout the centuries. And let's see what the classic commentary said about this. We're going to begin with text number 2. This is from the Abu Dram, lived in the 14th century in Spain. He is a classic commentator and halachist, etc. And he writes the following about the mitzvah of inebriation on Purim, to the point that you don't know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. He explains. I'm going to first paraphrase, and then we're going to read inside. He basically says that the meaning of this is not that you don't know the difference between hero and villain, but that you drink to the point where some of the nuances you're not aware of. You know what? Let me just read this inside. It is stated in the first chapter of Tractate Megillah that a person must be merry on Purim. That's one way to say it, merry, to the extent that he can no longer discern between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. Some explain that the words cursed be Haman have the same numerical value as blessed be Mordechai. You see why we did this week? Next week, we have the numerology class, teasing the gematria again. Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai, unbelievable. If you run the numbers, Hebrew numerology, Arur Haman, cursed be Haman, Baruch Mordechai, blessed be Mordechai. If you run the numbers, both phrases equal 502. If you want to know how we got to that number 502, come back in 1 week and we'll do the numerology class. Arur Haman, Baruch Mordechai, both equal 502. The Talmud wishes to tell us, let's back inside, that a person should be married to the extent that he can no longer make that calculation. In other words, no longer run the numbers and do high-level math. So what does the Talmud really mean? When the Talmud says you're supposed to drink to the point that you don't know the difference between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai, doesn't mean you don't know the difference between the hero and the villain. It means that you don't know the difference in gematria,
Right.
or you don't know the numerological difference, where there is no actual numerological difference,
Right.
but you can't differentiate between these two phrases. In other words, you can't run gematria in your head. You should have a little bit of l'chaim, not a lot. It's not saying to get smashed to the point that you don't know what's up and what's down. It's saying drink a little bit.
Kill your friend.
Literally, right? Do not do that, apparently. But it's to drink a little bit to the point that you can no longer do,
Maybe you're just happy you don't
Jewish calculus, huh?
care. You may be just so happy you don't care between the two.
Right, okay. Now, the next explanation he says is the Menhagot writes as follows. The Talmud, one second, let me just finish this up and then I'll come right back to you. The Talmud is referring to a certain poem written in a responsive format. We don't have this poem, by the way. But apparently back in the day, there was a song. For every stanza, I'm just doing like a beer. That's my beer mug that we're sloshing as I'm singing the song, which I don't know how it goes. For every stanza, the refrain would be either blessed be Mordechai, Baruch Mordechai, or Arur Haman, cursed be Haman, in alternating order. One would need a clear head to keep track, for if one is not paying close attention, they can make a mistake and say the wrong refrain, which you would not want to do. So the point is that if you drink a few l'chaims, then you might forget which stanza you're up to, and you might get it wrong because you don't have the song sheet in front of you. It's kind of like, 100 bottles of beer on the wall. You might forget which number you're up to, right?
Is this
100 bottles of beer on the wall, 100. Oh, I'm off soon, huh?
Is it about forgiveness?
Which part?
No.
Oh, in general.
In general, because you're blurring the two, and make sure you blur it so you forgive someone.
I like that insight. That we're not going to go specifically that line, but we are going to go maybe along those lines. I think you'll like where we're going with this. But first, the classic answer. So Abu Dram says, doesn't mean to get completely smashed. It means say a little l'chaim so that your head is not really running numbers, and that if you're singing a song, you might get a little confused. That's the bar of inebriation. Great.
It occurs to me that with the
What did I miss?
The Gansim, the whole Megillah. The whole Megillah. Come in on.
it occurs to me that if the number value is the same for both,
Yeah.
then these are two sides of the same coin.
Oh, look at that.
But it's God's coin.
Which means that God chooses.
Means God's one who saw to it that Haman was cursed and then Mordecai was blessed.
Good. I like that. Yeah. There's a lot of depth to that. We don't have time to unpack that, but that is accurate. Now, let's look at text number 3. The Rama, the classic Rabbi Moshe Isserles. He is one of the classic masters of halakha, of Jewish law. He wrote glosses. What are glosses? He wrote like accompanying text on the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. And this is what he writes. The Rama. I'm going to read text number 3. You guys with me? Text number 3? All right, here we go. Text 3. The Rama writes, some suggest that there is no need to get so inebriated. Rather, one should drink a bit more than what they are accustomed to and fall asleep. While sleeping, he will automatically not be able to differentiate between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordecai. In other words, you're not supposed to actually drink to the point of intoxication. Say a little l'chaim, fall asleep, and when you're sleeping, you know the difference because you're sleeping. You're sleeping anyway.
So it's a waste of good alcohol.
Well, regardless, for one who increases or one who adds, the important thing is to do so for the sake of heaven. Always keep God in mind. I'm drinking a little bit more, a little bit less. It's all for the mitzvah. Text number 4. Okay, so again, you have 2 commentaries that are really suggesting that the point of drinking is not to get smashed and like totally intoxicated, but to drink a little bit. To drink a little bit to the point, say a little l'chaim, so that you can't run heavy numbers and you can't, fall. You can't sing 100% clearly, and then then you end up falling asleep. Text number 4, the Taz writes. The Taz, again, a commentary on the Code of Jewish Law. He writes the following, text 4. How can we do away with the words of the Talmud that state until we cannot differentiate between cursed be Haman, etc.? Right. So what do you do with that? The Talmud says. So he says, no. You read the Talmud wrong. This ruling was overridden, as can be proven from the fact that the Talmud thereafter cites the story with Rabbi who killed Rabbi Zera. It's understood that the Talmud cites this story to conclude that one should not do so. In other words, what happens? Paragraph 1, Rava, different guy than Rabbi. Rava says, drink till intoxication. And then the Talmud says, but here's a story about one rabbi killing another rabbi and inviting him the next year. And I'm saying, absolutely not, because he brought him back to life in between. I forgot to mention that, right? So what's the point? What's the moral of the story? The Talmud is bringing that story to tell us, don't get intoxicated.
Do what he said to bring him back to life.
What is it?
Arise, old ox.
Arise. Exactly. Right. Arise. Aleshar. So what's the point? The point is these classic commentators are all saying the same thing, and that is, it's not really a mitzvah to drink to the point of stupor, say a little l'chaim, whatever it is. In fact, the Talmud is telling us not to drink too much because it could end in bloodshed or it can end in disaster, and miracles don't always happen, etc., to get us out of the messes that we create under the influence. And so therefore, the actual conclusion of the Talmud is not to drink. That's the conclusion. Great. Three classic explanations. At the end of the day, however, the question still remains. It seems a little weird that even after all the explanations, the Talmud still says something akin to blurring the lines between Haman and Mordecai, when it seems like the whole holiday is about clarifying the lines. Who's Haman? He's the good guy. Sorry, I keep on saying that. Keep on doing that.
Right.
I must have said l'chaim before. What's in these?
What is that?
Is this water or is this vodka?
I don't know.
All right.
Something.
So the question is, why does the Talmud talk about blurring the lines between Mordecai and Haman, between hero and villain? Yes, not supposed to get so drunk. It's cautionary tale, all of that stuff. At the end of the day, what's with this blurring of the lines, and what does that mean? So to answer this question, the answer, my friends, is blowing in the wind. And the answer is also right in front of us in our booklets, which we will get to soon. But first, we need to share a little bit about the backstory of Purim, a little bit about the history and backstory of the characters of the Megillah. And to do this, once again, we go to the sheet. Take a look at your booklets. Take a look at this. Text number 5. This is once again from the Talmud, Tractate Megillah. There's an entire book of Talmud on the Megillah, on the holiday of Purim. Tractate Megillah, the book of Megillah, 16a in the Talmud says the following. It was taught in a Baraita. Haman was the barber of the village of Kartsum for 22 years. You ever wonder what the celebrities were doing before they were celebrities? Right?
Mhm.
A lot of them wait tables, right? Like a lot of, actors in Hollywood, they're like waiting tables. Some of the famous rabbi turned comedians used to give classes before they became famous.
Yeah.
Pursuant to our earlier
Yeah,
conversation,
right,
right?
exactly.
Everyone, they're like, what was Haman's, what's his backstory? Right? Like any good barbecue sauce, you always need a good backstory.
Mhm.
Barbecue sauce always has a back. Ever read the label? Ketchup never has a backstory. Barbecue sauce always in 1875. Right.
Yeah.
Grandpa Bill discovered this sauce. We bottled it. Original batch. We're running out soon. And here it is. There's always a backstory for barbecue sauce. Never for ketchup or mustard. I always wonder why. But I don't know.
You know, for the pellet grill.
Yeah.
There's a new product out.
What is
I
it?
just saw it today. It's a cooperative thing between Traeger and Louisville Slugger. This is not a joke.
Really?
There are Louisville Slugger pellets.
Made from baseball bats?
Yes. Like I guess.
What?
I
don't wanna eat
guess-
that.
I guess they were junk ones. If it's,
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta get me some of this for the grill. Yeah. All right, that's amazing, actually. Okay, so my mind is blown, but I gotta go back to the class. So what was Haman before? Text 5. Oh, we already read it. He was the barber of the village of Kartsum. Now, here's the deal. The barber of Kartsum was not like a very like super lofty position. He was like the barber of Kartsum, right? It's like the barber of Seville. Seville, what was that? Barber of
Yeah.
Seville.
Barber of cartoon. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Barber of Kartsum, the musical. That's it. So he was a simple barber. But you know how barbers are.
The barbers did perform the task of doctors,
Yeah, bloodletting.
but I thought they were like doctors too.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why they have the circular.
It wasn't a low thing, I'm saying.
For sure. But all right, but he wasn't like a government, he wasn't a royal official. But in that position as barber, you get to meet people.
Yeah.
And eventually he made some connections, he makes connections. Huh? Maybe right, yeah. I know a little. I know a guy. So eventually, he gets some royal connections. Text 6a, the Medrash says. Let's continue. 6a. It happened once that the king sent Mordechai and Haman. Oh my gosh! Look at this band of brothers. What? The king. This happened years prior. The king sent Mordechai and Haman on a mission to conquer a certain territory, and he gave them some money. Haman took his portion of the money and spent it all. Yeah, he went to Vegas, as one does.
He went to Vegas?
He squandered, he splurged all of his money. He lost. When you know the story of the two Jewish mothers that are talking. And one says, my son, he went to Vegas in a car and came back.
Oh, I know this one.
Oh, do you know this one?
I'm gonna keep going.
Oh, no. I said it wrong. He said he went to Vegas. She said he went to Vegas in a $20,000 vehicle and came back in a $200,000 vehicle. Wow, he must have done well. No, he came back on the Graham.
Oh.
That's the joke. So
back to the
on the Greyhound, on a bus. I don't know if buses are $200,000. Probably not.
Probably more than that.
I've never,
Yeah.
Buses are real expensive.
Oh, I never bought a bus. Shocker. I've never even priced them out. Maybe a used bus. Anyway, so what's the point? They went on a mission.
Yeah.
Haman went through all of his cash. When they arrived and needed to spend the money on the war, Haman had nothing left, whereas Mordechai still had his half of the money. Haman approached Mordechai and asked him, lend me some of the money that you have. Mordechai replied, I will not lend you the money until you sell yourself to me.
Ooh.
Oof. We got some Yaakov vibes over here, right? Yaakov and Esav. Haman accepted, borrowed the money, and wrote, Haman is the servant of Mordechai. Haman essentially sold his life to Mordechai for a loaf of bread. Not really bread, but like for the money.
Mhm.
What's the point? What's the moral of the story? Or what's the point of the story? The point is that Haman sold himself as a slave to Mordechai. Let's continue. Text 6b. This explains why Haman got so incensed when he saw Mordechai not bowing down to him. Why did he get so upset? Because he knew that Mordechai had this over him. He did not just bow down. He was his slave. Haman said, yet all this avails me nothing. That's a quote from the book of Esther. Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rabbi Chanina, when Haman saw Mordechai sitting at the king's gate, he said, yet all this avails me nothing. In other words, all my honor, all my glory, even being invited by the queen herself, All of it means nothing with Mordechai still alive. This may be understood. I was suggested by Rav Chisda, for Rav Chisda said Mordechai came as one with the heritage of a rich man, whereas Haman came as one with the heritage of a poor man, as Mordechai had been Haman's slave master and was aware of Haman's lowly lineage. Rav Papa said, and he was called the slave who was sold for a loaf of bread. That is from the Talmud, once again, tractate Megillah. So what's the point of all this? The backstory is Haman was, sorry, keep on doing that. Mordechai was the master. Haman was the slave. This is before the entire book starts. This is like in their background. This is years earlier. This was the situation. And then what happens as the story progresses? Let's continue. Unbelievable. Text 7a. This is a quote from the first chapter of the book of Esther from the Megillah. It says, but Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's behest. I already told you why, right? The king was drunk. He said, I want you to appear wearing only the royal crown. She says, I'm not going to be paraded around. Nice try, not happening. So Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's behest, which was brought by the hand of the chamberlains, and the king became very wroth, and his anger burnt within him. And the king said to the wise men, who knew the times, for so was the king's custom, to present the case before all who knew law and judgment. He asked his advisors the following. And nearest to him were Karshina, Shethar, Admasa, Tarshish, Maris, Marsena, and Memuchan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who saw the king's face, who sat first in the kingdom. Those were the 7 advisors, from highest to lowest. According to the law, what shall be done to Queen Vashti, that was the original queen, inasmuch as she did not comply with the order of the king brought by the hand of the chamberlain. She refused my order. What should happen? Text 7b, let's continue. We're going straight to 7b. Then Memuchan declared before the king and the princes, not against the king alone as Vashti, the queen done wrong, but against all the princes and all the people who are in all King Achashverosh's provinces. If she goes against her husband, if she doesn't listen to her husband, then all of the wives throughout the kingdom are not going to listen to the husbands, and then the patriarchy is threatened. And then, so we got to stop it now and make a statement. Therefore, you have to kill her and take her life and make a statement that she has to listen to her husband. And so it is. I mean, this is obviously ridiculous advice. But who's it coming from? Guy named Memuchan. Who was Memuchan? 3, 2, 1. Here's the drop. Haman. Memuchan is a pseudonym for Haman. Yeah. Which order was he in? In the order of advisors. He was the last one mentioned. I mentioned earlier they were mentioned closest to furthest away in rank. The lowest in rank was Memuchan. And who's the one that speaks up? Memuchan. That was Haman. Take a look at text 8. Says the Talmud, Rabbi Kana said, here we see that a commoner jumps up to the front. Yep, that's what happened. The one who didn't really deserve to be there. He's the one jumping up to the front. Oh, listen to me. I have a great idea. Kill the queen. In other words, Memuchan, Haman was a nothing. But then he rose to become a something. And as the story in the Megillah progresses, what happens? He gains more influence. And at some point, Mordechai, it seems, loses influence because Mordechai's people are slated for extermination. Haman builds a gallows for Mordechai to, God forbid, kill him individually. And so, although at the beginning or even before the Megillah begins, Haman is at the bottom and Mordechai is at the top, as the story progresses, they switch. What happens at the end? What happens at the end?
He gets killed.
Switches back. Right, Mordechai once again rises and Haman once again falls. Which begs the question, and this is the major question we're going to address right now. Major question is, what was the point of the whole story?
Well, if you try to harm somebody, it's going to come back to you.
Sure, but what's the point of the whole story? We began before the story started. Haman was at the bottom, Mordechai was at the top, the bad guy was here, the good guy was here, all was right. Then what happens? Oh, he flips. And then at the end, it flips back. So you just got back to where you started? What was the whole point? What, God put us through the ringer for nothing? Just to revert. God says, aha, let's go crazy. Let's make you confused. And then, we'll bring it back. What was the point? What was the point of scaring the Jewish people? What was the point of getting Haman promoted? Because God orchestrates everything. Getting Haman promoted to position of leadership only, and then to threaten the Jewish people only to fall once again. What was the point? What was the point of that scare? If you're just getting back to where you started, what's the point? And so the Rebbe addressed this question in 1970, and I'll share with you his answer, and then the connection to Woodstock and the hippie movement, and really the revolution of the 60s and 70s. And it's an unbelievable insight. Here we go. The Rebbe asks this question, and he says the following. Although at the beginning or before the story starts, Haman is low, he's a lowly barber, a slave to Mordechai. Mordechai's at the top. Although that's at the beginning of the story, at the end of the story, Mordechai is even higher than ever, and Haman is even lower than ever, right? Because Mordechai is not just, a big macher in the palace. He's now the the prime minister. He's now second in command. At the end of the story, that's where Mordechai ascends after Haman is killed. And Haman is not just a slave. At the end of the story, what is he? He's dead.
Yeah.
Right. So the one. So yes, it started off Mordechai and Haman, and then it got a little gray, uncertain. Who's going to win? What's going to happen? And then at the end, the good guy goes even higher, and the bad guy goes even lower. And the Rebbe says sometimes you need a little shake up in the middle to clarify what's what, and to take things where they really need to be. In other words, if something is good, in order to get even better, sometimes in the middle, you need to challenge it a little bit. So here we go. Let's jump into a few more texts. This is unbelievable. Skipping text 9a and 9b. Text 10a. Yeah.
It occurs to me that a gallows is such that the condemned is brought to a higher level and then dropped to a lower level.
All the way down.
Yeah.
Like the story of Purim.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very, very well stated. Take a look at text 7a. The Rebbe said this in 1970, again, 6 months after Woodstock, and you'll see the connection. Sorry, 10a. I misspoke. 10a. At the beginning of the Purim story, Mordechai was blessed, and Haman was a barber and a slave, as the Talmud relates. Even after Haman became one of the 7 ministers, he was the most junior of them all. But then came a time when Achashverosh did not properly distinguish between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. Achashverosh, the king, was unsure if he should act according to Haman's will, according to Mordechai's. But this was only a temporary situation. The point was that ultimately Mordechai would become not just a minister as he was, but second to the king, so that nobody in the land could raise hand or foot without his approval. He didn't previously have such power. Haman was previously 7th in rank. Before that, he was a barber. But in the end, he sunk even lower than that. He was hanged on a tree. The high went higher and the low went lower. But what was the catalyst? It was the intermittent, or the confusion and the blurring of the lines in between. Text 10b, the Rebbe concludes the following. The purpose of ad de lo yada, of inebriation, etc., is not to bless Haman and to curse Mordechai, God forbid. Rather, the point is to attain a deeper understanding of why Haman must be cursed and why Mordechai must be blessed. It's to challenge the status quo, to clarify that indeed Mordechai should be blessed and indeed Haman should be cursed. It's not about forgetting who's the hero and who's the villain. It's about challenging it to get that clarity. And the Rebbe said this is connected to the revolution, the counter-culture revolution that the world, or that at least the United States, certainly was experiencing the 60s and now into 1970. And the Rebbe explained the following. This is shortly after the turn of the calendar in 1970, shortly after Woodstock, the summer of 69, was that? Yes, Woodstock, summer of 69. So here's the deal. The Rebbe said, what is the story? Where is this rebellion, revolution coming from? It's coming from youth. It's coming from the young generation not accepting blindly the values of their parents. The parents told them to go to school, go to college, get a job, right? Get a home. And as the Rebbe says, we'll see soon in the Sikha, the Rebbe says, buy a Cadillac, 2 Cadillacs, one for him, one for her. The Rebbe said in other Sikhas, make sure your house is wall-to-wall carpeting. Things nice. And the young generation, the youth, were rebelling against that. That's what life is. That's the totality of things. Just to have a car. And so they rebelled. They rebelled in the most obvious way. They said, you raised us for materialism. We don't want any materialism. Who needs cars? Who needs homes? Who needs even clothes? right? That was the rebellion. Nothing. Free everything. Right? Free love, right? That was the idea. Don't box it in as, oh, everyone. This openness. And the Rebbe said this openness is coming from a good place. It's coming from shattering the assumed or the accepted convention and going and seeking for something deeper than the convention. Again, it's not that the parents were teaching the children bad values, but they were lacking the depth. Sure, it's good to be a mensch, it's good to have, to be mesudar, to be, I don't know, stable, and to have a job, and to have, to have a house, and to have a car, or to have all these things. That's a good thing. Sure, that's good. But there's a reason, a deeper reason for all this stuff, a deeper reason for living. And that's what was missing. So again, when you have something that's okay, but you want to get to something that's better than okay, in the middle, there's a little bit of chaos, a little bit of revolution, a little bit of angst.
Perfectly said.
And that's what's the story of Purim, right? Mordechai and Haman, we know where they are, but it's not where it needs to be. There's a little bit of angst, a little bit of turmoil, but then at the end, it's all sorts out the way it needs to be. Take a look at the unbelievable language that the Rebbe uses in this talk from 1970. It will blow your mind. Take a look at this. Defending text 11a. It's unbelievable. It's at the English at the bottom of the page. The complaints that people have against the younger generation, that they are destroying the system, the so-called establishment, should be addressed to their educators. When parents and teachers taught the younger generation proper behavior, they explained it as the means to be able to afford a nice home, have a large bank account, own 2 Cadillacs, his and hers, and to be honorees and seated at the head table at banquets. When this constitutes the reason for choosing between good and evil, it is understandable why the youth will ultimately lose all patience for such falsehood. Let's continue. Inasmuch, 11b, since the youngsters are in the process of a spiritual journey, we cannot allow them to drift and get lost along the way. We must educate them according to their needs in a pleasant and kind manner and lead them to a proper understanding of right and wrong. The Rebbe was basically saying that what you're seeing with this, they were bombing on campuses, correct?
Yeah.
Protests, there were bombs. There was even a Kent State. There was a massacre. Shooting at Kent State.
Yep.
Right. There was a lot of chaos. Like the country was burning. Right. And in many ways, the youth were literally rebelling and destroying everything. And
Kent State
Was the-
precipitated
what?
strike. It was nationwide.
Got it. Okay. Right. And there was also anti-war protests.
Yes.
There's a lot of all on universities. This. By the way, everyone's like, oh, like everyone always thinks that it's the worst time ever. It was pretty crazy then. And it would be easy to see a Hasidic rabbi in Brooklyn, New York, wagging fingers and saying, what's wrong with everybody? They're all mashugah. They're saying, no, you don't understand what's going on here. This is an expression of wanting something more meaningful, something of significance. The youth are seeing that the values out there are garnished, or they're paper thin, and they want to burn everything down to get something better. The Rebbe said, these are not people that don't want spirituality. They're begging for spirituality. By the way, the Baal Tshuva movement, you know what that phrase means? The Baal Tshuva movement, the movement of people coming back to Judaism, that was, definitely spearheaded by Chabad and the Rebbe, picked up in the 60s and 70s. That's when it was. And who was becoming, returning back to Judaism, to the Jewish roots? People that were looking for something, looking for meaning. The Rebbe says, Shlomo Kar, yes, exactly. Let's leverage the seeking, right? Let's take the seeking and offer something of value, because the youth don't just want to burn it all down. They're looking for something better than before. This is the story of the 60s and 70s. This is the story of all of our lives. We all grow up in a certain way. And at a certain point, I think we all challenge that way, but hopefully we get to a deeper appreciation, right? So it's all about getting to a better place, but sometimes you have to destroy what was to get what can be, because if you still hold on to what you had, you'll still have what you had.
Isn't there a expression from the Gemara that says you have to deconstruct before you can reconstruct?
Correct.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. It's exactly, it says over the Rabbi Zera. Oh my gosh. The same rabbi that was shechted says that he turns out at another story, man, he was killing it. No, it turns out, Try the feel. So anyway, turns out Rabbi Zera, it says, left Babylonia, Babel, and moved to Israel. He fasted for 40 days to forget the previous Talmud that he studied, so he could study the new Israeli Torah that he was studying over that new Torah, but new style of Torah. So he deconstructed. He had to divest himself of what he previously knew to open his mind to some new information. So that's the idea. It's like a seed. You plant the seed in the ground that it has to decompose before it can begin again. If you have an existing home on a property and you want to build something new, you have to demolish, right, in order to build. That's just the way it is. You have to clear away what was to have what is. So when we look at the story of Purim and we see, well, hold on, why is the whole Megillah? I mean, it's so confusing. We don't know who's going to win at the end. Haman is lifted up. Mordechai is in trouble. He's fasting now. The Jewish people are in peril. This is crazy. And at the end, it all sorts out. But what was the need for that? The answer is the need was to get to a higher level. Mordechai should go higher and Haman should go lower. There's nothing wrong before, but it could get better. And to get better, sometimes you have to deconstruct. And I would say the same thing is true in our own lives. We all grow up with values, even Jewish values. I could say, myself growing up, with my background and my home, growing up in a, where we had the opportunity, kosher, Shabbos, etc. So that can become by rote, and it become, you take it for granted, and it may lose, in a sense, some of the spiritual glow or spiritual wonder because it's something that you've always done. So I think the message, again, just personalizing the message is tear it all down and build it up again, but from a place where it's real and you own it. It's like the 1960s and 70s. Tear it all down, tear down the establishment to create a better world. Funnily enough, speaking about hippies and Chabad, there was once a young man that came to the Rebbe around that time, 60s and 70s, and he was saying how, he's looking to become more religious, but he's not sure about growing his beard because, like Chabadniks typically have a beard. He's like, not sure about the whole beard thing. Rebbe said, what do you mean? All the hippies have beards. Like, you'll fit right in. You'll fit right in. Anyway, but enough about it. So the point is, not about the beard or not the beard. The point is, it's about challenging the status quo, not for the sake of challenging the status quo, but for the sake of creating something deeper and better, for the sake of getting to a grander place, getting to a better place. And this is the message that I wanted to share with you tonight. This class I entitled The Purim Revolution, because really it's how Purim constituted the first revolution, a time when things were okay, and things got really confusing, and then things got really good. And the confusing part was there only for one purpose, to allow the great times to roll. And so every year on Purim, the Talmud teaches us, say a little l'chaim, however you say l'chaim, say a little l'chaim, to blur the lines a little bit, not to really blur the lines, but just to do a little deconstruction in order to create something truly magnificent in your life. So you're doing a mitzvah, great. How can you do it even better? Going from good to great. That's the message of Purim. Going from Haman and Mordechai, over here to over there. That's the idea of good to great. So I want to wish you all a Chag Purim Sameach. All of us should experience the true joy of Purim, and along with that joy, the recognition that we have the ability to redefine and to reconstruct ourselves in a way that is greater than ever before. And that's the power of the revolution of Purim. So if not now, when? And if not us, who? So that's it. So we got to do it.
That's cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You guys are too kind, but keep on going.